Okay, firstly, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Enriquez, for meeting with me.
Yes, my pleasure.
If you could, just for the record, tell me your full name
Yes, my name is Granville Elias Enriquez.
and your date of birth
Yes.
and place of birth, please.
My date of birth is 1926. I was born in Jamaica. I migrated to this country in 1955, August 1955. I spent, say, 46 years abroad from Jamaica, 15 in America and 31 in this country. I lived in two rented addresses when I came here before I bought my home in 46 Avondale Road, which when I was married and reared my kids there. 5 of them, fortunately, they have passed them through school, give them their education through university, etc. And all 5 of them are doing very, very well.
Okay. Can I just take you back a little, back to Jamaica?
Yes.
If you could tell me which parish, which town you were born in?
I was born in the parish of St. Thomas, Spring Garden District.
And can you describe any of your childhood to me, any early memories you may have?
My early memories is a free-going society, which we roam freely, respect to the elders. Also, when we were told to do something, we got to obey. You know, kids do naughty things, but they are respectful to their elders. And I get on very, very well with the elder people. All my best friends were elder men and women because they instruct me the way of life, and I get on very well.
You say you're talking about when you were a youngster.
Yes, coming up, yes.
Most of your friends, people who you respected, were elders.
Of course, mostly elder people were my friends because I look up to them for guidance, and they do give me good guidance and advice how to approach life, which I retain and follow most of their patterns, and I get on very well through those advices.
How many members were there to your family? How many brothers, sisters?
I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Unfortunately, 2 of them died. I'm the youngest of all 6. 2 sisters, 4 brothers. 1 sister is alive and 1 brother is alive, and myself. So that's all of that family. Fortunately, I came here and I had 5 children, 4 girls and a boy, and they all grow up and goes through university here and college, and they're doing very well. You may have met 1 or 2 of them, I don't know. Peter Enriquez, which we came here and met upstairs in the top room, and Molly Faye Enriquez Dillon. She works in New Cross. She's one of the advanced nurse practitioners there. I had a daughter. She works in Thorny Street Medical Center. She's a health visitor there. And Annette, she's an occupational therapist. She works over somewhere in Stoke. So all of them is doing fine.
Good.
Yes.
To take you back a little to your education in Jamaica.
Yes.
Do you remember much about school? Did you have a favourite subject or a worst subject?
Yes, my favorite subject was art. I love art. I used to draw very well. I could just look at something and just make a sketch of it without having it in front of me. And reading I do fairly well, but unfortunately My father died early, and when I was in school, about 12 years old. Times were very hard for my mother to grow us up all, so I didn't have the opportunity of furthering my education.
From the age of 12?
13, yes, I couldn't. But I managed to learn a trade, which I am a carpenter and builder by trade, which I embark upon, and it helps me to maintain a decent standard of living, and to help my parents and some of my young relatives who needs help.
So, was when your father died at the age of 12?
Yes.
Did you have any support from extended family members or not?
My mom was always there as a rock for us. We have got relatives that came in and give support and all that and help around, But losing a father figure, regardless of what it is, not the same when you have a member coming in from your relative, because all of us need help. They need help, we need help. So it's like in the sea and everybody got to swim for the shore. If you can help, you help. If you can't, you got to try and help yourself. And we become, and we're taught to become self-efficient, so that you can help yourself, and if you can, help others. Because it's not all of us in Jamaica has got the privilege as I did. Some were better privileged than I, and some were less. But I was fortunate enough to acquire trade early, and I improved on it.
So you started earning from the age of?
About 16, 18.
Okay.
I started to do my little craft after learning my trade. I got to go to school to learn my trade, and then while I was in practice as an apprentice, I used to do little craft handwork and little small jobs, to keep my pocket money going, until I was qualified to be a journey person, that I could be employed by somebody to do a specific job. And I worked in that field until I managed to launch out on my own, contract my own jobs.
How old were you then?
I was going up over in my 30s.
Okay.
In my 20s, sorry.
20s, yeah.
In my 20s. I decided to, the last job I do, I was about 26, 27 in Jamaica. Built a 4-apartment home for an Indian man, And after that, I decided to take a plunge to travel, and I came here in August 55.
So can you take me to the events that led up to you coming here? Why did you want to come here? How it came about?
Well, I had friends and relatives that was here, and they encouraged me to take a trip and to come and see what the country is like, because the better opportunity may be here for my trade and my improvement in life. I was single then, so I decided to come and see. When I came here first, I got a job working at a factory as what do you call it, casual worker, and work about 3 different jobs, because I change them. If it's not too suitable, I do change until, fortunately, I've seen the adverts in papers that they require carpenters, and I apply for the big to work with the firm, which was William Whittingham, and I went down, had my interview, and I got the job, and I worked there for about 7 years with them. Until, unfortunately, they merged with another company, which I didn't want to travel away from Wolverhampton. Through my family was just growing up. So I went and worked on the buses. I do conducting until I started to do driving, and I leave again, and then I go back on my trade, working for myself. And then things get slow and the weather was getting bad. Also, and then I leave and go and got a job in Goodyear's. I worked there for a period of time, and then a friend of mine invites me to go to America. That's around in 1980. I went and visit America on a vacation. I liked California where I was, and I decided to went back. I went back and I lived there, coming back and forth for 15 years.
So you were there by yourself or with your wife? Or?
I was there by myself to a point, but we visit because the kids there were growing up and they were just settling down in school, and I did not want to break their education. So we compromised. Every year we come back and forth, sometimes twice a year, sometimes they come, sometimes I come, until I reach retirement age, and we decide to sell out what I've got there and get rid of everything and come home and stay.
Whereabouts in California was this?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yes.
And I suppose to take you back before that, when you came to this country in 1954?
55.
55. And do you remember the date?
Yes, it was the 17th of August, 1955.
And you came by?
A boat.
Boat.
Yes.
Do you remember much of the journey?
Well, it was good. It's slow and steady. It's the first time I had to travel on a boat for such a period of time. I had 16 days. It took from Jamaica. We went to Genoa and come back in, and when we landed in London, we take a train and came to Wolverhampton.
So what did you first think when you saw England? Was it what you had expected? How was it different?
Yes, my expectation never rose too broadly. I expect to come and see the things that I've learned in school, because I've learned a lot of English history, and it gave me an idea what I was coming to see. Not all the things that I've seen, but when I came, the only new things that I've noticed is the chimneys. Those are the first thing that highlights my eyes. So I investigate what they were, and they say they were for heating purposes. They build a fire in the homes, and the smoke and everything come through the chimneys to keep the house warm and comfortable. But I get stuck in, and regardless where I am, I always adapt myself to the conditions. I never try and expect too much more than what I can achieve. When I goes in for it, do my best. If I got a job to do it, I do it to the best of my ability to please my employer and to get satisfaction from it. And I never regret or being abused in any of my employments.
You never regret, or you never were?
I never regret any of my jobs. I change them when I decide to leave from one point to the other. If I see something better than what I started, I give my notice in and step from a job to jobs.
Did you ever find it difficult to find a job?
No, not at all.
Also, can you maybe think of an incident did you experience any racial discrimination in any shape?
Yes, I have experienced a lot, but I've rode above all of that now, and I'm enjoying the benefit of the good ones. So I don't worry to look back on my experience of the bad things that had occurred. It doesn't worth it. I have ridden above all that now, and I'm okay. I'm retired now, and I've taught my kids to expect the unexpected. But when you come across it, learn to ride above it. And they do the same, and they are getting on very, very well.
If you don't mind me asking, what contexts were had you experienced discrimination in? I mean, was it in relation to housing? Was it in relation to work, employment? What?
If I say I did not experience direct discrimination, I'll be telling a lie.
Okay.
It never confronts me direct on, but I know it was there. When I was working on the building, I have worked very, very hard, and I made a money, because if I goes to do a job, I put my 90% in it, and I'm expecting to get 90 or 91% out of it. And it is there that some men around who was in the trade and working on the building site, they lurk around, they play around, have their cup of tea as usual. But if I go to work, I do my full 8 hours, and I get the benefit from it. But when Friday comes and my pay pocket is a little bit heavier than theirs, it isn't very nice to them. They don't think that they were sitting around and drinking a cup of tea while I was working. They expect to have the same benefit, and that caused a little bit of friction and discomfort among some of them. But I didn't take much notice. What I go there for is to work and get my wages. And
so where was this? You said a building site. Where was
yes. Well, when I was working with the company William Whittingham.
Right.
Yes.
And so, would you say your employer was quite a fair employer?
The employers were very nice to me, very, very nice. I'm pleased to work for them. But some of the workers that work as carpenters and so on, some of them were good, very nice men that I work with, very friendly. But they had one or two is always there. They do call me names and all that, but I ignore it. You see, because most of them don't know Blackpool. They lives in Wolverhampton and doesn't know Blackpool. I came from Jamaica and I know Blackpool, and I know a lot of the resorts in this country which they didn't know. I've spoken to some of them, and they never go on a holiday. They never go. Some of them don't know the sea.
Yeah.
They never go to the seaside. So you got to pity them, may I say, sometimes, and say, okay, all right. I don't want to make you feel unhappy. I'm here, we got to live together.
So at the time, were you the only black?
I was the first black person that worked with that firm, and I have paved the way that several came and worked after. They didn't stay because maybe they didn't get on very well, but I leave on my own accord. And when the boss heard that I was leaving and got my notice, he was very disappointed, and he asked me back, and I went back and worked for them again for another couple of years.
When was this employment, roughly? A date? A decade?
In the early 60s. Yes, 60s, in the 60s. Yeah, 60s, yes.
How did you find your time socially in Wolverhampton? When you came to this country, were there many things for you to do? Were you able to access all the other things on offer for the indigenous population here, or were there restrictions?
Yes, there was a lot of restrictions here. This is why Westmorland Caribbean Parents and Friends came in. It was Westmorland Caribbean Association before we merged with Parents and Friends. That association, a few of our men got together and saw the situation that confronts us, the injustices.
Okay. Can you describe the situation in front of you at the time?
Employment was inadequate. Place of living was inadequate for some of the people. Recreation facilities, such as pubs, maybe churches and other smaller recreation.
Can you elaborate for me? What do you mean by inadequate?
Well, the acceptance was not there. Maybe it's because they hadn't traveled around and experienced different country and the nations and the color of skin. They had taken back seeing a black person coming around, wonder what happens. And some of their elders told them that, as you know, we are monkeys from Africa, and so on and so on and so on. And they wasn't thinking that a human cannot be moving around like us, talking, working, doing the same thing that they do, and the buses and so on, because the only thing that makes the difference it was the skin, the color of skin. But after the association was formed, we wrote petitions to different places and asked the government, the Borough Council of Wolverhampton and so on, to address some of these things. And it gradually works out that some of the bad ones were addressed and things got easier. And some of the pubs allow black people to come in and have their drink and have recreation when they wanted to. The churches, some of the churches didn't refuse me, but no, I know many people, black people goes to the church and they were like isolated. And then they start to accept one or two. Fortunately, this church across the road here in Darlington Street, it's always been a savior for black people. And there used to be one just on Waterloo Road there. It's Baptist, Wolverhampton Baptist Church. But unfortunately, when the development of the expansion of this town started, it was taken down and transferred to a different site. It was located somewhere in Ford Houses. It's still there because I drove past it while
The building is still intact?
No.
But the church
the church is still there,
yeah.
Right? It's a new building.
Okay.
It's a smaller building now is being built down there. But it still goes on.
You said when the organisation formed, when the association formed?
Yes, it was formed in 1958.
How soon after you started approaching organisations like the council about certain changes, how soon were you able to see real things actually start to happen?
In the late 50s, coming out 59, 60, in the early 60s, there's a lot of change started.
So just a few years really?
Yes.
Before you talked about when the organisation was set up, how many people do you think, how many of the white people in Wolverhampton do you think thought like they did to make you want to set up the organisation?
I can't pick myself on a number.
What percentage?
But there was a councillor in Wolverhampton, Mr. Medding, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. But he was very cooperative. And he helps us to find a way of getting out of some of the injustice. He alone couldn't do it.
Sure.
But he helps to direct our pathway and help us to become more comfortable and settled. And other men in this town which was in authority to help, because if they didn't help, unfortunately, we couldn't exist to this stage. We settled down, got married, and rear families here. The kids, they grow up, have the privilege of going to school, get good education. There was a little bit of injustices in school as well. But if you help to teach your kids to be obedient to your teachers and not be rude and so on, regardless of what happens, the teacher will pay a little attention to your child and help. But if your child or children is very naughty, disrespectful to the teachers and their elders, we are all human, and you would not get the full support from them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happens to black and white parents.
Mm-hmm.
You must teach your children to respect others and those who in authority. And if you do that, you'll get on. And if you encourage yourself to please the person of what they like, you'll get respect from it as well. You respect others and they will respect you. But if you don't, the thrift, it will be always there.
How did you find bringing up your own children in a foreign country compared to the one you were brought up in?
Quite different, because where I was living, I have to travel about 2 miles to attend school. Here, it's just 5 minutes from where I was living and to the school where my kids used to first attend until they transferred to a higher school. It wasn't very far. They have more transportation to take them and back from school. Until when life become much better, I could afford to drop them off, drive them to school sometimes when I'm not busy, or they catch the buses. So it's much different.
What about in actual terms of the way children are taught in this country compared to maybe the strictness that you were brought up in Jamaica?
I resent the looseness of the strictness in school. The reason for this, children must be disciplined. I am not encouraging you or anyone to disadvantage or hit a child and ill-treat them. But the child must be disciplined. Without discipline, you cannot get nowhere. If I'm telling you something and you don't want to listen, and I say, come on, sit down and be quiet, you're disturbing the others. And you started to be abusive to me, and I can't even put you through the door and close the door and say, you stay there until you cool down. Mm-hmm. That's wrong in society. This is what caused the breakdown of society. I have to say it's the government has given the power to children and taking it away from the teachers or who is in authority. Mm-hmm. I know discrimination is there, and some of, especially say police or some teachers, will rough the child a little bit more than what they should. But if the child is obedient, he wouldn't get the roughness. If you are not obedient, you will be roughed for it.
Do you have any grandchildren of your own?
Yes.
What sort of ages?
Well, the smallest is coming up to 3, 6, 18,
mm-hmm.
21.
Okay, so a wide range.
18, yes. Okay. I've got 8 grandchildren.
8 grandchildren.
5 children.
How you have grandchildren, and where this is the year 2000.
Yes.
What are they like? Are they disciplined? I mean, are they well mannered?
They are well mannered, but they always try to break a little small smartness, as we call it, because kids is all over in this age. They like to try something, but if you keep allowing them to do the things that they shouldn't do, they will continue doing it. If my grandkid come in here and I say, you're not to do that, and he turn around and be disrespectful to me, I give him or her a little clipping. Mm-hmm. Even if the police is standing there, I clip him. I'm not going to hurt him. Mm-hmm. But this is my child. I would like to discipline him or her, that when he or she goes to school, he or she can sit there and listen what the teacher is teaching and the teacher must be comfortable with him or her in her class. And I grows them up in the same, my kids in the same manner. And I never have any bad report coming from any of the schools for discipline. I try to give them it at home and make sure I help them with their homework and so on, so that they could go back to school and be a asset to me and the teachers and the school that they attend.
Has religion been a part of your life at all?
Always, always. I grew up in an Anglican church in Jamaica. I visited an Anglican school there. I came here and become affiliated to an Anglican church here, and I grew up all my kids in the same faith. They go in and out as usual, when they go certain, they're varied, but they still come back. All of them is still member of St. Jude's, where I worship from. I came here.
How important or how significant do you think?
It is very, very important to have your kids affiliated to any denomination as a church, because there's certain discipline into the life of any church that if you are not in a church, you lack that type of discipline.
Can you expand on that for me, please?
Yes, respecting others. A loose way of living, if you are in a church, you do not do that. You learn to conduct your presence around others and show some example. You take part in cultural activities, that will highlight the presence of others. You can go to sports and so on. You don't go out on the street and swear and blackguard yourself and disrespect to others, fight in the street and all that. If you grow yourself up in church and keep the kids them there, they will vary. I know you can't keep them 100% in there, because everyone fall out, but what they were taught early, it will always stay with them.
So earlier on you talked about social things to do in Wolverhampton.
Yes.
Over the years, have there been more things for African Caribbean people to do in Wolverhampton?
Yes.
When you first came here?
Yes, a lot more. A lot of opportunities is there, especially for the young kids coming up. Education-wise, it's wide open there. If they have got the ambition, they can reach the state where they want to go. There's no barrier that is visible to them that they cannot climb over. And they can go to a college, wherever they wanted to go, and take the subject if they are qualified for it, and then they can have their grades. But if they lay it back and refuse and thinking about discrimination and all that, you will never go nowhere. Because the white discriminate against the white, black discriminate against black. So you got to go for what you want.
And so, are you a believer in anything is achievable now?
Education in a whole. When you have good background of good education, you can launch to different ways. You don't have to be educated just to be a teacher, or just to be a driver, just to be a doctor, just to be a lecturer, just to be an architect or whatever. When you're educated, and especially if you want to be educated in different fields, you can always divert to anything which is suitable in your lifestyle.
How would you describe Wolverhampton society now?
It had improved a great deal, but it's still lacking the progress of the young boys in education. What has happened? The foundation of their education was not there. Most parents, I'm sorry to say it, but the support of the parents is always vital to your kid. You are to say to yourself, I didn't get this, but I'm not allowing my child not to get it. I am going to see to it that he achieves what he acquires. And a lot of parents did not do that. And unfortunately, this is what caused a lot of disappointments. The kids, they go to school and they did not get good education, and they see their comports, their friends in school come out and working in the bank, working across there in a clerical job, and they go for the interview and they did not get the job because they were not qualified. And what they do, they put discrimination in front. They said, because I am black, I did not get it. Excuse my expression, but you're a black person. You have got a decent job. You are here to interview me. If a white person come and is not qualified for your job, he or she could not get it. So you got to equip yourself to get the things that you want. It's no good you sit down there and wait until the day passes when you don't get the right education, and then you can't achieve.
So how much of that do you think there is in Wolverhampton society? How much failure or resentment is there, and people maybe blaming
society? They blame society for their own failures.
How big a problem is that in Wolverhampton, do you think?
It is there. It is there. May I say, looking around in your own experience, there's not a lot of young boys climb to the top. There are a lot out there that should have climbed, but they waste their youth education and did not acquire the position which they should have taken, or the route what they should have taken for their future education.
Do you think, apart from, you talked earlier on about schooling, education, talked about parents being an influence there,
yes,
supporting their children in
yes,
times of difficulties.
Yes.
Do you think there has been any other factors in those for those children's predicament now, for where they are?
It goes back to there, because regardless of if there's any discrimination out there, which we know maybe it is there or maybe it's not, but if you don't talk to your child and support the child and encourage the child to climb above discrimination, you will always sit down there and be like your father and your mother. My kids has got far advanced education than I have, but I am happy about that. I am proud to come out here and see my son stand out there and deliver his speech. I'm proud to see my daughter goes in the college there or university or wherever she works and go and present herself and give a good speech. She teaches a certain type of medicine in New Cross. She goes all over the country and different places. I'm proud for her. My son, he do lecturing, he used to all over. I'm pleased about her. My other daughters, they all do their bit. I'm pleased. I did not sit back and say, all right, go to school. When you come, I don't look at your homework and see how you are improving. I don't go to parent teachers. People don't go to parent evening at their school, talk with the teacher, see how my child or children is doing. You got to do that. You got to give your child support. You got to support the teacher. If the child is not pulling he or her weight, You got to see the teacher and find out what happens. Then you encourage the child, support her, and encourage the teacher to help. But if you don't help, you can't expect a miracle. The teacher alone cannot do everything.
Mm-hmm. So was it important for your children to be more educated, to do better than what you had? Was that?
Yes, I'm happy because I did not get the education that I did deserve because I couldn't afford it. But growing up and have the experience, I had my children, and I said to myself, I would like my children to achieve what I did not achieve, because it puts them into a better perspective for their life and for their children to come. If you cannot represent yourself out there, you're in trouble.
What do your children and your grandchildren, what do they do for you now in terms of, what do they do for you? What do they bring to you?
Well, the respect is always there. I can call upon them anytime to do anything I want them to do for me. If I don't feel to drive and I say, call any one of them, say I want to go to Birmingham, I want to go to the airport, I want to go to so-and-so, one is there willing to do it. Somebody will take off from work, or somebody is always willing. If I have anything to do at the house and I'm doing decorating and I call any of them, say, come on help, they all pitch in. If I want to go and spend the day at their home, I'm always welcome. I've got keys for every one of them home. I go when I wanted to, and I come when I wanted to. They do the same at my house. We're still a family.
Would you say this is fairly common? Is this normal with most of society?
And no, it isn't very common. I cannot say a lot in the Haitian in families, but I know they are a close-knit unit, and I encourage my family to be a close-knit unit. You must always learn your kids to help one another, support one another. If one needs help and the other one can help, they should. I do help and help every one of them, and I encourage them to do the same. And they grow up in the same manner. Any one of them can call on anyone to come and do something for me, or do this for me, or take this for me. Can you pick me up? My car isn't in good order. They are ready to help each other. Can I borrow your car to go so-and-so because so-and-so?
What's the reason behind that, and what's the importance of it?
The importance is the support from the parents, how you taught your children, the way of life that you teach your children to adopt, a family life, a close unit of support.
How does so with that in place, what sort of effect does that have on the rest of society? When if we use your family as an example,
Yes.
How do you benefit or react with the rest of society, your family?
Well, I'm happy because wherever I go, I always get good remarks from strangers who know my family or know my kids. I always get a good report from them. I'm not saying that people is not out there that will pass an unpleasant remark, but I never hear it. I always hear good remarks about my kids. Someone is always out there to say something good about my family, and I'm pleased, happy for that.
In the final sort of section, I suppose, would you be able to talk more about maybe changes that have taken place in Wolverhampton since you first came here?
Yes, the town had been changed a great deal. The presentation of the city, where the town, which presenting itself to become a city. It was an old-fashioned town, but if I was on the planning board, I would plan the city much, much better or different.
And now?
Yes,
Okay.
because firstly they're trying to divert traffic and to make it easier for the town, but they're making it worse. Because the heavy vehicle which is going through the town is always coming inside the town before it can go out.
Okay.
When they were planning this ring road, I thought they would erect flyovers. Flyovers mean is direct line over the town,
Yeah.
and to take the heavy traffic across the town. And not to allow the heavy traffic to come into the town and to find its way out again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the odd mistakes that they have done. I know they want to keep this town very unique, but it's causing a lot of problems. Every day new changes is being made on the road to try and combat the traffic, but making it worse. People is comfortable now by acquiring convenience by having a car. Most of us is living not direct in the town, is out of the town, and if you want to come and do shopping in the town, it's very hard for you to come in without your car. The buses, they are not convenient.
Why?
For you.
Why?
Because most of the bus route is away from where you are living. You got to walk to come there. If it's rainy, you got to get wet on the umbrella. And then you come to the bus at a stop where you can get the bus. You got to wait there for a certain time. Then where it drop you, you got to go across the town and so on and so on. Which if you have your own transportation, you pull up in the store or wherever, you just load up everything and it takes you to your door. And they are trying to prevent a lot of cars from coming in the town and to allow the buses to come, but they're making it worse because most people don't want to do that. They rather to go out of town and do the outside shopping, like for instance Maryhill or outer supermarkets. Everything is under one cover. They load up their vehicle and they come right home.
How do you think people's attitudes have changed in Wolverhampton since you first came here compared to now?
Yes, yes. The acceptance of black and white is here now. You can see white men marrying black girls, black boys marrying white girls, and the resentment of others looking down when they saw those things were occurring earlier on. It is not there anymore. And they discover that it's only human, black or white. It doesn't matter if they are suitable for each other, it's fine. Your choice and my choice is different. The acceptance, as we spoke, the early age people that did not have the privilege of meeting black race or different race from their nation, like the Irish, it was very hard because I didn't see never see a black person, and they thought it's something dangerous to their way of life. It's going to affect their way of life. But after it becomes apparent that it's moving around and the young started to go to school with the young blacks and mix socially, they realize that they are all human. The way of life, they breathe the same air, the same blood is in the same body. The only difference in human here, the outward appearance, like your skin or your hair may be different. You walk upright just like they do. You sleep just like they do. So they discover. But this is education. A lot of the early age did not being educated about other nations. they were only taught of their own nation, black, not just white. And they did not taught this in school, that there was a nation in Africa which these people were black. They discriminate the kids then by telling that the only thing is they're all like the monkeys and the trees and pleasant things in life. They may create a movie as Tarzan, jumping from limb to limb, but if you should go back, Tarzan was a white boy doing it. So where did he come from to be in Africa jumping from limb to limb?
So, finally, what do you think has been your personal contribution to Wolverhampton?
I have worked with on the transport. I contribute by transporting people from point to point. I worked in the industries, Goodyears, foundries. I worked on the building as a carpenter and building by trade. That was my contribution to society. I do private home improvements all over I work for black, I work for white, improve their homes and so on, repairs, etc. That was a lot of contribution. I grow up my kids and I try to help them to create and improve good education, that they can come in being and be helpful to society. All my kids is working around the community and the surrounding districts and giving vital help and support.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Henricus. I'd like to thank you for
My pleasure.
sharing your experiences with me.
My pleasure.